I think you're good.
I think I'm good.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
All right.
Dun 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 dun. In the beginning,
Here we go. And
there was two people at a table. Those people were Justin Zagri and Garrett Schweighauser. That beginning is today.
And so time begins.
On the third episode.
On the third
of Story
episode
Builders.
Of the great epic of Garrett and Justin's Story Builders.
Bum, 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 bum.
How are you doing, Garrett?
So good.
Good.
How are you doing, Justin?
I'm good. Having a good weekend.
Good, man. Happy to be back.
Yes.
Hopefully you guys have caught up, listened to the first two episodes of Story Builders.
Well, if they haven't, who are we? What are we doing here?
Well, I am Justin Zagri.
Good start.
I'm Garrett Schweighauser. I play James Potter in Severus Snape and the Marauders, which was directed and written and produced and created by Justin Zagri, who's the man across from me.
I am the man across from me.
It's right.
Across from you.
Oh, man. This is so confusing.
Yes. But we are creating a new podcast that is all about creating stories from scratch.
Absolutely.
We are working on a radio play called The Great Wizarding War.
Yes, we are.
Which is a sequel to Severus Snape and the Marauders.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett and I are co-writing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were bickering back and forth about how to get the story made and what characters to use and what choices they should make, it was actually so much fun that I was like, we should just record ourselves telling stories and figuring out stories and coming up with stories, because it was ridiculous. And I'm like, this should be recorded.
Yeah,
so
that's how this was born. That's right. You're kind of like inside the writer's room with two goofy guys.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
And we're hanging out with everybody on YouTube as well.
That's right.
Because we have a big YouTube channel and no following on the podcast yet. So we're just kind of like bridging. We're walking two bridges here.
That's right. Also known as crossing two
streams.
Streams?
Yes.
I shouldn't have said that. I started that sentence.
No. It'll pay off in later on in the podcast.
Oh, great. I'm so excited.
No, you'll see.
Yeah. You'll see.
So, first episode, we were basically coming up with ideas. We had ideas and we were pitching them to each other. We had about 12 total.
Yes, we did.
And then the second episode, we kind of talked about which episode we think we should do. And then we came upon one of the episodes that we were like, okay, we'll make this.
One of the stories. One of the stories. Like, which one do you want to do? And we picked it. And if you have not heard it yet, the story that we're going to do is one of Justin's.
Yes.
And it is
a story, a bit of a mashup about two blind superheroes. The first is Matt Murdock, Daredevil of Marvel Comics. And the second is Toph from Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Last Airbender. Not the Korra stuff, although the Korra stuff is really good. But this is from the original Last Airbender with Aang. Oh, man. It's such a good series.
So today, what we're going to be figuring out is the basics of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to do that by figuring out the basic beats of the story through a story structure that has already been developed.
Yes. So what we're going to be doing is taking a story structure that we know works and trying to apply it to a different story idea. This may sound like it's less creative, but it's actually pretty interesting. If you're following rules, you get to kind of be creative within those rules. That was one of my favorite things about working on the Great Wizarding War, is we had to follow JK's rules about how the world works. And it actually helped us to be pretty creative with some of the things that we have done for that series. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of transfer it over to here and see how it works. We also had the Patreon people,
which we can't thank enough, because we wouldn't be here without them.
Yes, I would still be living in my car down by the river, much like Chris Farley. So thank you, Patreon, for getting me out of the hole. That was my life before this.
So we do have a Patreon. It's
dark.
Patreon.com/broadstrokesproductions, and we got a bunch of perks. And they range from hanging out with us on a Discord chat, which Garrett and I frequent all the time. To being part of a live Q&A every month.
Mm-hmm. Always do one.
To actually participating in the story building itself.
Yeah, and you can also submit artwork for the Great Wizarding War if you're a Patreon member. Mm-hmm. It's just a great way to kind of interact with us and the products that we make, because we make them for you guys, because we're fans and we like to support fans, and we're supported by fans. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
And the Patreons this time got to pick the villain for our story.
That's right. I sent out a question and asked everyone what they think, who they think the villain should be. And I remember it.
Yes, you do.
That's right. Hang on one second.
Uh-oh.
I am not prepared.
Yeah, I know, right? What's going on?
No, I know who the villain is.
I know who the
I
villain
want to
is.
make sure that I mention who thought of it.
Oh.
That's right.
Because this villain is going to change the course of our story.
That's right.
Stories.
Yes. So why don't we get into exactly who it is?
It's a great idea.
Yes. You seen Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Yes.
The first Ghostbusters, not the remake.
The first Ghostbusters.
Yes.
That's right. Well, that's the only one that matters.
Well, technically...
I thought the second Ghostbusters was fun, or the remake was fun. It's
Right.
just, it was trying so hard to make jokes instead of have a story.
I feel like if I watched it again, I might like it more. I think I was so kind of swept up in like the hype and everything around the time when that movie came out.
Anti-hype.
It was a lot of anti-hype.
I was like, I'm going to see this movie because every white male doesn't want people to see it.
Right.
It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're like, and it's not because they're all women. I'm like, it's not because they're all women. Shut up.
Well,
You're stupid. But I wasn't really interested because I was just like, they said, oh, it's a total remake. It's not like a continuation. And I'm
Right.
like, well, what does it negate the first one?
that was
why do I care?
that was something that I didn't like too. Is why didn't you jump off of the Ghostbusters kind of pantheon that was already built at the time? But I get it. Trying to do the remake. I think what made it hard for me when I watched it is that I was kind of looking at it going, okay, I could see why people didn't like this. I could see why people didn't like this. Instead of just appreciating it as the movie that it was. And there were some fantastic performances in there.
Critiquing the movie for itself rather than just saying I'm boycotting it because it is not the original Ghostbusters.
Right, which I didn't do. As much as I love the original Ghostbusters, I was
Sure.
like, I want to give this movie a chance.
Right.
But I was disappointed when I saw it. But I think seeing it again, I could open my eyes to other things I'd like about it.
Right. It just bugged me that everyone was against it from the beginning because the Ghostbusters are women. I'm like, give it a break. Who cares? Honestly, who cares?
Honestly.
So the reason why I brought up Ghostbusters is because the villain that Copper Spoon,
Copper Spoon.
yes, on Patreon suggested. What does that have to do with?
Copper Spoon, it's
No,
It's like an exciting exclamation points, visual and auditorial. Auditorial, Because
I thought you were like referencing to like a 6-shooter or someone like a cowboy.
I mean, it would technically like 2 6-shooters.
Okay.
Be like, but they don't really sound like that. They'd be more like bang, bang, bang. They probably sound less like
Okay.
that. That's
Okay.
how I express my excitement, Justin.
Yes, I can see that.
You shouldn't put so much coffee in this cup.
It's very watered down coffee. So watered down that it's actually just water.
The jokes.
Good try.
Dun, 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 dun.
So let's get to the point. The villain for this mashup of Toph and Daredevil is Gozer.
Gozer.
Gozer, the Gozerian.
Are
Gozer,
you
the
the
Destroyer.
Keymaster? Yes.
Well, the Keymaster was Zool.
No, I know. Oh, yeah, that's right.
One of her or its lieutenants.
It's.
Yes, because Gozer can just take the form of whatever it wants.
Yes.
So that's going to be the villain.
Yeah.
We have to figure that out.
I'm so excited. The cool thing I liked about Gozer is that it could bring anything in your imagination to life.
In a very,
very terrifying way. Like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Ray? We just go camping with my dad.
I feel like Bill Murray just blotted it out in improv, and then the entire production was just like, I guess that's what we're building.
Oh my God! Yes,
production stops
they were like,
for 6 months so they can build a 6-foot-tall guy and build a bunch of miniature sets. And while they're looking at the thing, they're like, what is it supposed to be? Well, I mean, Bill Murray said it was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, so that's what we're going with.
That's what happens when you let actors improv.
I mean, that movie had a lot of improv.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
It was amazing.
Which is one of the reasons why it was so great. Rick Moranis is probably one of my favorite characters in that movie.
Sure.
Do you want to come to the party?
Right. Yep.
But what I thought was interesting is that the characters Toph and Matt Murdock literally use their imaginations to see the whole world around them.
Right.
That's how they move through their environment. So it's interesting to like how would Gozer use that against them, So, and how can we introduce them all in the same universe, in the same day?
It doesn't have to be the same day. It can,
Well,
it
it's
can, it
true.
can take place over the course of a few days or several days.
Right.
And basically what we need to do is explain how Gozer is back.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that she was destroyed, that when the Stay Puft Marshmallow was destroyed, and then it's been a while since I've seen
So they
the
had
movie.
to open the. I know we need to do some research. So they
the
had
gate,
to.
the gate was open on
They
the
had to
top of the
open the
apartment
gate,
complex.
and it was the center of like this kind of ghostly like hole tear in reality is like how Gozer came through,
right.
which makes sense why she can alter anything in our reality based on
Yeah.
her powers.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what could be interesting?
What?
Is if we set it during a convention, but we would do it like a supernatural convention, like a convention of the occult.
Okay.
But let's say, because when Comic-Con in San Diego first started, they actually shared the convention center with a quilting convention. So it was a comic convention on one side and a quilting convention on the other side,
Okay.
literally in the same complex.
Okay.
So we could have a small comic convention going on next to a occult convention, and the amount of occult energy in the area kind of coalesces and tears a little hole.
Or someone just knows exactly what they're doing and actually purposely opens the hole to
But then-
bring back Gozer.
But does that make them the villain? And Gozer just a pawn?
Well, no, because she would be like, "Thanks for bringing me back, Squish."
Why would she squish somebody who brought her back?
Because she's Gozer.
Then
or
why would
it's
they
Gozer.
bring her back?
Because he's an idiot.
Idiot just worked.
That's an idiot. Or we could go into I don't know. I could be a total jerk and be like, it's an incel guy who's just so fed up with not being able to get girls that he brings back Gozer to destroy the world.
What's an incel guy?
An incel is a person who
Well, isn't it a guy?
It's a guy who can't get laid. Basically,
What does incel stand for?
I don't remember, but it's a term that's going around where basically guys can't get laid and they have chosen to stop trying
Oh,
and go on the internet and complain about it.
do they wear fedoras?
Probably.
I mean, I love fedoras.
I mean,
don't get me wrong.
it's completely internet, so there's not like hipsters where they have a certain look, but maybe they do. I don't know. But no,
any
I don't
incel
know
guys, go
that.
ahead and reach out to Justin on, on the Discord chat
Outrage begins today.
today.
Yes.
They said this podcast couldn't be controversial. You're wrong.
Oh boy. It could just be a guy who's fed up with life, wants to bring back Gozer. He's kind of an anarchist. Anyways,
Well, to kind of cop on that a little bit, if you're working occult magics, there is some sort of precedence where you have to draw on powers outside of yourself. So someone who is kind of weak magically can use ritual magic by drawing on the magic of another being. So there could be an occult guy who wants to get, or girl, who wants to get more powerful and
Yeah.
calls upon the powers of Gozer. And that's why Gozer comes through, because she's feeding just enough information to this occult person
Okay.
that they tear a hole in the fabric of reality, and Gozer gets to step through and then squish their head into whatever it wants.
okay.
What was her goal in the Ghostbusters movie?
Take over the world, basically.
Yeah.
Destroy it. She's destroyed other worlds before.
Now, why would she do that?
Well, we need to get into that, but
What a waste.
Before we get, I mean, it's her thing, maybe she gets off on it.
I can't cop to that. Where I was like, I want to destroy the world.
Well, we don't have to.
Aren't you
that
in
was
it?
Gozer's motivation in the movie. We're doing our own thing, so she
That's
can have
true.
her own motivation.
If I were Gozer, I'd want to enslave humanity using their own basic fears.
Probably.
God, I'm a bad person.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk real quick about the story structure that we're going to use.
Oh, yes.
And the story structure is not exactly a structure. It's more of a set of guidelines. So John Truby wrote a book called The Anatomy of Story. And I swear by this thing.
Okay.
And it has two forms of story structure. One is a basic form called the 7 steps, and one is a more complicated form, which is 23, I believe, steps.
The 23 steps.
Steps of storytelling.
Got it.
Right. So the reason why I say it's not exactly structured is because you don't have to express these things in order. So it's not like the hero's journey where, we see him in the normal world, an inciting incident happens, he meets his mentor, he decides to go into the weird world, we have our midpoint, etc. It works a little bit differently, and it's mostly from characters' perspectives, because characters should drive a narrative.
So
times.
okay, let me see if I can wrap my head around this. So the hero's journey would be a movie like,
Star Wars.
okay, Luke, being the hero in the
Mhm.
hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds more like a character-driven, like Mad Men almost.
It really depends, because basically what the guy did is that he came up with his own interpretations of what movies and books are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has similarities to the hero's journey, but he's spacing it more around how characters make choices.
Oh, I like that.
So the 7 steps are from beginning to end. We start with weakness and need.
Weakness and need. Okay.
And that basically establishes our characters and what their weaknesses are, or weakness is,
Weakness
and
is
what their need is.
Okay, so singular for both.
Right.
Okay.
So next step is desire. What's their goal? Do they have a goal? Sometimes it can be a singular, tangible goal. Other times it's simply a desire to be wanted when you're not wanted.
See, this is so funny because when you're working a character, one of your first questions is your super objective, which is like what you want for your life, which is like an overarching goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of figure out from that super objective what stands in your way, your weakness,
Yeah.
your obstacles.
Right. Well, the weaknesses are usually internal.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. The next step after desire is establishing the opponent.
Mm.
The opponent can be an antagonist, or it can be also internal, or it can be external, as in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be an antagonist, but there needs to be an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Next step is a plan. It's where basically after the weakness and need is established, the desires are established, the opponent is established, our protagonist or protagonists in our case come up with a plan and decide to carry out that plan.
Okay. So that's unlike this sounds a lot like the hero's journey, but it can happen in different orders. I see what you're saying.
It can happen in a different order, and it can be interpreted in different ways. And what the author stresses is that you focus much more on what the characters are feeling and how they're deciding to react, either reactively or proactively, to the stimuli of what they're facing.
Interesting.
Whether it be an environmental problem like, say, an earthquake, or an antagonist like Gozer, or their own issues, like they have problems with each other.
Right, which they would.
Oh, yeah. Toph and Matt are going to have trouble getting along for more than one reason.
Yeah.
And then we get into the battle. The battle is usually how the ultimate conflict is resolved. And the battle is facing Gozer, right? So the battle can include the protagonists battling each other psychologically or otherwise. And then there's the self-revelation, which is basically what did the characters learn? What did they what's the conclusions they came to?
Right. How did they change?
How did they change? Right. What are they getting out of it, if anything?
Right.
Usually antagonists don't learn anything.
True.
They have the potential to learn something and they don't.
And
they
that's
choose
why they're
not to.
antagonists.
And that's why they're antagonists. Or sometimes they do.
They learn that they're not strong enough.
Right. Yeah. Or not smart enough.
Right.
Or they're too stubborn, prideful, things like that.
Or too set in their ways. I think that could be Gozer's problem.
Maybe. Yeah. And then there is the new equilibrium. After the main characters have learned what they have learned, how do they decide to move forward with their lives? They have to go. They have to go back to the world they came from.
Right.
Sometimes it's emotionally, where it's just like, okay, back to my job, but I'm a different person now, and I see things through different eyes. And sometimes they come back. It's like Luke Skywalker when he came back to Tatooine. He was in his new equilibrium on a macro scale.
Yeah.
Not quite on a micro scale. He still had to face his father, but on a macro scale, he from the thematic point of view of the hero's journey, he came back.
Or like
home.
Before the Last Jedi and like his story when the whole first trilogy was finished, how he became a legend and then he had to return to his environment as a legend.
Correct. When he did the most genius thing that he could possibly do to prove his legendary status.
What? Die?
Yeah, but stand down the entire First Order and have everyone witness it, and that witnessing spreads throughout the galaxy.
Right. No one knows that he wasn't actually there.
Correct.
Oh, so good. I just watched it for the first time literally 3 days ago.
Really?
I was too emotionally available for that movie. And the very beginning, when the random woman dies on the bomber ship, when she bombs the ship And then she just like died. I'm like,
Rose's
I
sister.
was almost in tears, like trying to eat. Imagine me at 10:30 in the morning trying to eat a breakfast burrito and also crying at the same time over this random character who never comes back.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm a little too emotionally like open for this movie right now.
Right.
But it was really good.
I think it's one of the best Star Wars films ever made.
Yeah, it was great. I loved Mark Hamill's performance.
Yes.
As Luke.
I loved Luke Skywalker's choices.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that movie's almost flawless.
Yeah.
And I'm pissing off a lot of people right now.
Yep. Well, that's okay because I'm not a huge.
So many people on the internet who hate this movie.
I can see why. I mean, I can see why. They did some things where you're like, okay, I get it. Like, you have to do it this way. But it's also like, it's a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, all Star Wars movies have to have that thing. And also,
What thing?
like the look and the feel about it. You
That's
have
not what they were complaining about. They thought it was very different and had a very different look and feel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were like, Luke Skywalker would never act that way. They hated Rose. They didn't like what the adventure Finn went on, which was like a B-story segue. They thought that the chase, which wasn't really a chase, was boring. And they hated how Luke went out. And I'm just like, there's no better way for Luke to go out. Yeah, that was exactly what a Jedi would do.
He becomes one with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, he also saves the rebellion, and he does it in a passive way, in a defensive way. He doesn't do it in an aggressive way. He does it in a way that he didn't attack anybody. He distracted Kylo Ren, took advantage of his rage and anger, and gave the rebels the time they needed to escape. Yeah. And he did it by using the Force in a way that was established early in the film as like impossible. Like, you die even trying.
And he did.
it.
Because he became one with the Force. Right. That he shunned, like, for the second half of his life.
Right. And I just thought that was, like, that's the best way a Jedi can be. Yeah. It follows their principles perfectly. And it was just the most iconic moment one of the most iconic moments I've ever seen in Star Wars. I think it's second only to the Death Star being blown up. Yeah. Use the Force, Luke. I did think... Snoke was a little interesting for me because I was like, so what do you do? What exactly do you do? Okay, but like, except for being a plot device for Kylo Ren to ascend. Well, in the first movie, he was a plot device, and what the internet was all about was, who is he? Who is he really? Is he Darth Plagueis, who is Palpatine's, the Emperor's teacher? And what greater purpose does he serve? Yeah, you're like, he's a plot device to make Kylo Ren the bad guy, finally. Exactly. That's all he was. And I feel that J.J. Abrams was setting him up to be something bigger because the fans wanted that kind of thing. They wanted story building over character building. Right. Or, I'm sorry, world building. Right, over character development. Over character development. And which is Rian Johnson was like, I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to cut it in half. Oh, come on. And I thought that a lot of the choices Rian Johnson was very brave. Rian Johnson made was very brave. Yeah, I loved the foreshadowing of her training and cutting the rock in half, almost the exact same way that Snoke is cut in half. I loved the visual foreshadowing and that's fascinating. Double imagery, and I was like, this is great. I love this. I just thought it was so fun. I never thought of the rock and Snoke in that way. There you go, man. That's cool. Imagery. So we're segueing. We're like... Why are your podcasts 7 hours long? We're digressing quite a bit. But you brought up Last Jedi and the fact that you just seen it. It's like, we have to talk about it. It was so good. Yeah. So much better than Ready Player One. You jerk. Anyways, although Simon Pegg is amazing. Yes. Other than that. I mean, Simon Pegg was barely in it. Yeah, but he did a great job. Yeah. Also, Anthony Hopkins barely has any lines in that movie that everybody loves him from, where he plays Hannibal Lecter, called Silence of the Lambs. He's in there for like 15 minutes. Yep. Well, Simon Pegg is in there for like 1 minute. No, Simon Pegg has probably a total more screen time than... At least more actual lines than Anthony Hopkins probably had in Silence of the Lambs. I doubt that. I don't. I doubt that. I'm basing it on no information whatsoever. Exactly. All right, so where are we? Why don't we start building this story? Okay. And we'll start with, let's figure out our world. Okay. Let's figure out how the hell Toph gets there. I mean, I like this idea of reality being bent at this occult convention right next to a comic convention. I'm down for that. And that opens the way for Toph and Matt Murdock to come through. Okay.
we could do it here. Okay, here's a couple of thoughts I have on that. We could do it that way where they're like breaking into our world, both characters, which would fit. Or we could do it where we're already in the world of Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
And they break into Matt Murdock's world. What I don't like about that is there's already a lot of established rules in Matt Murdock's world.
Why?
Because it's already going to be in the Daredevil universe. We already know it has to be in New York City. We already know that he has these certain amount of friends, and like why would it would have to happen in Hell's Kitchen, and we'd have to deal with all of the other defenders around there as well, like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. And
no, we don't.
But it's in their backyard, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's already a lot of established information, and that doesn't give us a lot of room to like grow and give both characters an even playing field.
Well, we have to follow basic rules.
Well, of course we do.
But if we set it up so Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and you're talking about the Marvel Netflix universe right now.
Yeah.
We don't have to follow that.
Well, no, that's true.
And it's and Daredevil, when he has his comics, he still has plenty of standalone comics where he has to face a villain, and I'm sure Jessica Jones is like running around doing her own thing, seeing Daredevil in the background fighting somebody, and she's like, meh, it's not my comic.
Meh.
And runs off.
That's not my comic.
Right.
Yeah, it just doesn't put the characters on an even playing field thematically, because we're pulling.
Well, we don't want them on the same playing field. We want Toph to be in a fish out of water,
but we don't want Matt Murdock to be a fish out of water.
No, he should be her guide. He should basically like you said, like in the last episode, he should find her in social services.
Yes, that's true.
Because she's so overly like overwhelmed by everything that somebody just says, here, I'm going to take you somewhere, I'm going to help you out, and she puts her in social services, and again she's still confused.
But that's the thing, is Toph
Matt Murdock gets a call to help out this girl.
Toph do that in the last Airbender. She's taken out of being a princess and brought on this adventure, and she's like, I'm a fish out of water for the entirety of the series. It is what she's wanted. That's true. That could be interesting to see.
And she had companions, and it was her world.
Yeah, that could be interesting to see her coming into this world, because we have to decide when this takes place in Toph's growth as a character.
I think shortly after the end of the last Airbender series.
So she's already established herself.
Yeah.
So what do we want her to learn from this?
Well, that may not on a broad level, that may not be easy to answer from the very beginning.
No, of course.
I think a series of ideas need to be established, and then kind of what they both need to learn will come into effect.
Okay. Well,
and it needs to fall into not just their relationship to each other, but their relationship to dealing with Gozer.
Right. So
all three of them need to be around the same central theme.
Right. So then let's figure out where. So we know where Toph is coming from shortly after the end of the last Airbender, and now we know where. Now we have to know where Daredevil is coming from. Does he have his suit? Does he not? Like, is he?
Right. So we can start out with, like I said, it's just Matt Murdock gets a call from somebody, and we have to look into the legalities of why this lawyer would help out this little kid.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, he does a lot of pro bono work, right?
He does, but like he helps out people who need legal help. This person would be put into an orphanage system. Like, why would Matt Murdock be a part of that? Well, then
let's say this. Let's say Toph appears in this world she doesn't understand. People think that she's a lost child at this comic convention because she's dressed like Toph.
Sure.
Right? But she gets very violent, of course, when people try to like touch her and handle her.
Throwing rocks up
starts
from
like
the floor.
Throwing rocks and stuff, and they're like, okay, where's your parents? And she's like, I don't, does her Toph thing.
Yeah.
Then they basically take her to the security office, and they're like, okay, we're going to put you in the system.
Yeah.
And this, maybe she hurts some. Uh-oh. What if she hurts somebody who's a huge asshole and wants to press charges against her and her parents? And since they can't find her parents, they're going to put her in lockup overnight or something like that.
Juvie.
Something like so far beyond where she should be, where a kid should be ever.
Yeah.
And you can just tell because this person is like, maybe they're associated with Kingpin. Maybe they're just like a douchey person. And Matt Murdock is like, okay, I'm going to keep you out of going
and not just because of like she's doing weird things, but because she's blind, and he feels empathy.
Well, yes.
No, that's perfect. That's the whole idea. It's supposed to be two blind heroes, and then if I were a blind person, I hear this poor little blind 12-year-old who has weird powers because I have weird powers is in jail. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna help out this kid.
Well, that's true. And maybe they could be saying like we need to to study her or something like that as well. Maybe it's not juvie. Maybe they're like, we need to study you because you're blind and you can do these crazy weird things.
Well, then it gets into a new antagonist.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah,
we have to stick with Gozer. So for Gozer to work, it has to be somebody injured at the convention.
Okay, that's a starting point to put her in jail, and then basically Matt Murdock, so we can answer the whole question of why doesn't somebody higher up go and find her?
Yes.
Matt Murdock can be like, I need to see her right now before anyone else does.
Because he doesn't want someone to come over and be like, she's got special powers. Let me go take her and experiment on her like they did to Jessica Jones, which I know about because I'm Matt Murdock.
Right.
What do you know that? Yeah, he'd know that.
Right.
Okay.
You're actually Garrett Schweighauser.
Are you
You're
taking
not Matt Murdock? But
I'm Justin Zagri. Didn't you hear the beginning?
You're not the creator of Severus Snape and the Martyrs.
How do you know that?
Because you don't have the bags under your eyes like I do after that movie.
Oh, I've got bags under my eyes.
No, you don't. You're an actor.
I can't see them because I'm an actor.
Exactly. You hide.
No one's going to listen to this because I just slurp the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I keep green apples around before we start so we don't have any sounds. Yeah, stop it. No.
You brought it up, bro.
Yeah.
Where are your green apples?
I don't have any with me.
I don't make those noises because I'm a very talented, trained actor, and I do articulation exercises every single day.
That's good.
Do you know what they're called?
No.
Whiskey, do you need to go outside? That's my dog's name. Whiskey, do you need to go outside?
Yeah. That sounds like, one that definitely works your tongue.
Yep.
Yeah. And I can actually tell when I go to a play and I watch professionals versus amateurs. It's their articulation dictations.
It's true.
And how I can tell that whether they're training or not, or whether they've practiced enough.
It's especially important in a musical because you have to hit the T's and the D's when you're singing and talking. Otherwise, no one's going to know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's something you don't have to do for film unless you're playing someone with high diction.
No, I still need characters to be like, they need to understand.
Oh, of course they need to be. But for me, when I'm working on a film as opposed to like theater, I will warm up my full instrument, which I will warm up my full instrument for film as well. But for theater, it's more of like articulation and enunciation and what am I looking for? No, not dictation.
Dictation.
Talking loud.
Okay, volume.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Being able to reach the back of the house, right? And when I'm warming up in a film, I work more on my character's vocal tonal qualities, like how their voice sounds, what their cadence is, and how it changes. You have to do that in a play too, but on film, I get to focus more on like, okay, how would my character talk and say things like this? Why do they speak this way? How does that inform me? And I don't have to necessarily work on my talking loud. I wish I could remember what word I'm looking for. Anyways.
Okay.
I digress.
Well, in just 1 minute, explain what your exercise is, because I'm curious. I want to know what that's like.
Okay, like a vocal warm-up exercise?
Yeah, well, you could either explain it or you could just do it.
Well...
Or both.
Well, okay, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your whole, like, mouth articulator is warmed up, right?
Okay.
So you do that.
He's moving his cheeks around. He's like,
I'm with my hands, actually.
Yeah.
And you want to have your lips relaxed. So first, it's like connecting from your diaphragm.
Sorry about all the noises, by the way.
You're connecting all the way up to the front of your lips.
Okay.
So that you're making sure that the breath is traveling unimpeded to the end of your lips where it can hit these articulators and vibrators. You can chew on the sounds a little bit so you're getting the vibrations all in your head. So it's not just your throat that's vibrating when you're talking, but it's the rest of your body. You can actually feel the vocal vibrations. I can feel them in my fingertips. I can feel them in my toes. I can feel them in the tips of my ears when I speak. And then I work on connecting to the base of my breathing, right under my sacrum. And I have a thought. Let's say I'm going to do a sigh of relief. So I'll think something that is relieving. Like, let's say someone just handed me $100,000. I breathe that in and I let it out on sound.
Sure.
Now I'm connected to my center. And when I have a feeling, I can communicate it easily. Like if I'm upset, I can communicate that without getting in my own way.
Okay.
I don't know how much time I have left. And then after
About
I do
30 seconds.
that, I can work on my articulators, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue.
Okay.
You can say that over and over again, like the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do ma, working on moving your lips in isolation and then all together. And then you can go lion face and then a lemon face.
He's literally making these faces.
A lion face, and a lemon face, and the louder, and the more you change your tone when you do it, the more you have vocal range when you perform. And then let's say if I'm doing an English accent, then I will do words that draw me into that accent, which for me is, let's see, water, tube, thought, bought, caught. Once I do those, then I've dropped into my English accent, and I can start to use it again and think of words that are difficult for me in an English accent, like her, thought, man. Then I'd string them into sentences. A man thought he would take the tube, but he did not, so he stayed at home and drank tea.
Cool.
There you go.
All right. That's
God,
awesome.
That was exhausting.
I know, but I learned something.
Well, good. I'm so proud of you.
Hopefully everyone else learned something. All right, so we know that Toph showed up from another dimension into this Comic-Con.
Right. Into Matt Murdock's dimension. That's something we need to be taking notes on, is that we are in Matt Murdock's
We are
world.
in Matt Murdock's dimension.
Now we could get really nerdy and figure out which Matt we're talking about. But let's just, for the sake of it, say it's the Marvel Netflix universe.
Let's do Marvel Netflix, because that's the one I know the best.
Yeah, it's one of
Daredevil-wise.
the most recent one that we can pay attention to.
and I like it.
And a lot of people have watched it, and it's a lot easier to articulate it based on how he sounds.
Yes.
But versus coming up with from your own imagination because you're reading comics.
Right. And then we can throw little fun things in. And also, this is going to be an auditory experience, which I think is just going to work so much better for someone who's blind. If we do this as an auditory thing to listen to and enjoy, we want to keep that in mind when we're writing this for sure.
Yeah.
So
we also want to research
scenes.
into like what it's about the experiences of blind people going through the day-to-day. So make sure we can replicate that in this film.
Well, there's actually a guy who teaches blind
drama.
people how to echolocate, because we can actually do it better than bats can, because our brain cavity is bigger, so
You're
our
kidding
sound
me.
resonates more. Yes.
We can echolocate.
We can echolocate. There's a guy who teaches blind people to mountain bike down mountains without a sighted rider.
Blind people.
Using echolocation. Yes, blind people.
Oh my God.
So we should definitely look into that.
That's amazing.
Yes, and then we should also watch the episode World on Fire, where Matt Murdock explains over and over again how he can see.
Sure.
Because it's like a world on fire. And then there's that funny joke. And we should also research that episode where Toph explains being taught by the ground voles.
Well, she was sort of echolocation too, right?
She was more yes, but hers wasn't using sound. To echolocate, you have to make a noise.
Uh-huh.
You can actually try it if you get like a big book.
Uh-oh. He's grabbing one of my notebooks. Don't read into it, please.
Oh my God, that's not what I look like. And you put it in front of your face, and you start to echolocate, right?
He's putting the book in front
You
of
can
his
actually
face
tell
back and forth,
when it's
like
closer to
1
you
inch
than when
and
it's
then 6
farther away.
inches.
So like you hold it far away,
Yeah.
and then hold it close. The sound is different.
Wow.
So that's the principle.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
People can echolocate.
Better than bats.
Why
which is
doesn't
crazy.
Batman do that?
Because it would be so hard to read that in a comic.
That's true.
Because he would have to be clicking the entire time.
Yeah. Wow.
It would be very difficult to disappear from your enemies if you're going.
No, I have to calm down. We have to do a podcast. This is making me giggle so hard. Just imagining Christian Bale doing that.
Where is she?
Okay.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. Okay, calm down.
That was
I'm probably red as a beach right
you
now.
are pretty red. As a beach?
Beat.
Okay.
Beats. Bears.
Boots and cats.
Battlestar
and
Galactica.
Boots and cats and bees and bees and bees.
Okay. Wow. That you blew my mind, and nearly caused me to faint from laughter.
Great. I've done my job today. All right. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Next time on Story Builders.
Next time on Story Builders.
Okay, cool. So...
Oh, can we do a sizzle reel for Story Builders where it's just things that never happen in the episode?
Oh, no, we're going to do highlights. Yeah, we're going to do highlights for each month.
I thought we were going to do next time on Story Builders. Justin falls out of his chair. Ah!
Yes.
Things like that.
Basically.
Anyways, sorry, I got distracted.
No, it's okay. And by the way, I'm keeping an eye on my phone because we did ask our patrons if they wanted us to talk about something for 5 minutes.
That's right.
So I'm just waiting for a response.
We get Patreon responses all the time.
On weekdays and certain times of the day, I don't know. And they just talk amongst themselves and we interject. So I asked them a question like, what do you want us to talk about for just 5 minutes? And we'll do it. So waiting on that. We'll see. Okay, so...
If not, I'll just talk about whatever I want. Maybe how much I hate Ready Player One.
Right.
But we've already talked about that enough.
Okay, so my opinion on weakness and need when it comes to Toph, I don't know about Matt, but Toph, to me, if I were her, based on how I know her, she's highly stubborn and highly independent.
Yes.
She's not one for reliance.
That's where her and Matt can connect.
I think that when she's in this new world where she has no clue what's going on, she is going to have a lot of trouble trusting Matt.
Of course.
And the reason being is, and the reason being is because she's got powers and no one else does, but everyone else has cell phones and she doesn't. You know, she's going to be huge Well,
fish
she's
out of
going to
water.
be so confused. All the different noises, all the different people. She can hear just fine, but it's going to be such. And when she walks around, she's going to feel concrete, but she's also going to feel a lot of metal, and she's going to feel metal in different ways.
And she's going to feel like the subway system underneath.
Oh my God!
Is going to be so loud to her.
It's so painful.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
because that's going to be going under every single street.
Right, and Matt can teach her how to handle that.
Right. Oh man! And you know what? If I were Toph, having just finished The Last Airbender, I would think this is a Fire Nation trick because she's just seen Aang literally take away someone's bending powers for the first time ever. That's going to blow her mind.
Wait, what?
In the end of The Last Airbender, Aang takes away the Fire Lord's fire bending.
Sure. Well, she didn't. She knew about it. She didn't witness it.
Right, but basically, her precedent of things that could never happen has already been surpassed.
Sure.
So now she's going to think, oh my God, this is something else I didn't see coming. This is a Fire Lord trick or something.
Some sort of Fire Lord trick.
That's what I would think if I was just in a war for forever.
Yeah. No, I like it.
So that explains her hostility.
Now, what would Matt's problem be? If he's eager to help out this person.
Well, I think Matt's problem, because there's a time when Matt puts away being Daredevil because he doesn't think that it's good. He thinks that he doesn't do good as Daredevil. He does more good as a lawyer.
Okay, so he took off that mantle for a while, and then in the Defenders,
he puts it back on.
He puts it back on because his girl is back. And if you've watched the whole series, then we won't spoil you. But basically, they win, and everyone thinks Matt Murdock is dead, but he's not.
Right. Now he can just be Daredevil full time if he wants, because Matt Murdock technically is dead.
Okay.
But
That's interesting.
I always felt like the reason he picked up his mantle again in the Marvel series was a little kind of lame. I don't know. He just sort of like does it. I was like, okay.
Well, it's because Elektra's back.
Yeah, but it's like...
It's the only woman he really loves.
I know, but...
It's cliche. It's been seen, but it made sense to me.
Yeah, maybe that's why I didn't like it.
Okay.
Because I don't really like Elektra in that.
I thought Defenders was meh. It was interesting.
It was interesting.
It was meh.
I loved having them all work together.
And when Sigourney Weaver's character is just stabbed out of existence in episode 4, I was like, whatever.
I'm like, no, Sigourney Weaver, no.
I was like, then who's the villain? Oh, okay, it's Elektra, but whatever. She just they were setting her up to be this huge thing, and then she starts whining and complaining, and then she gets stabbed through the face or the heart or whatever, and I'm just like,
heart face,
yes. It's like a curved blade.
It's a scimitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what's Matt's issue?
Well, is this after Defenders?
I would say so.
So, okay, all right. If it's after Defenders, it makes it a little harder. But now he can be Daredevil full time.
Okay.
And Matt Murdock's dead, so we can't have Matt Murdock coming to her aid as a lawyer.
Did they say Matt Murdock was dead in the Defenders?
I think they think he's dead.
Did they say that?
I don't know if they said it.
I think we should double check, because if we can keep Matt, I would keep Matt.
Well, I would keep Matt too, which is why I would set this before the Defenders took place.
Yeah.
I would set this down. I would set this down after he's put down the mantle of Daredevil.
So after season 1?
Yes.
Okay.
And Toph is the reason why in season 2 he starts to pick it up again.
Yeah.
Technically, in season 2 they already talk about it.
No, season 2 he's well at it and he's enjoying himself. It's the end of season 2 where he decides it's not for him.
And so this
He's
is
gotta stop.
Right.
He could take it out for a minute after season 2.
Or after season 1 even, he could be like, maybe this isn't a good idea. And that's why in season 2 he's enjoying it a lot at the beginning, because he meets with Toph and is like, no, I'm just going to be a lawyer. And she's like, I don't need a lawyer. I need somebody.
I mean, the end of season 1, he was pretty jazzed. He was like, this is working.
Oh, God, I wish I rewatched these.
At the end of season 2 is when he was like, I'm hurting my friends. I'm hurting the people that I care about. Not only am I putting them in danger, they feel betrayed by me.
Right.
And I did betray them, so I think I'm just going to stop.
Okay.
So it makes sense if he decides that because of the events that he's dealing with in his face are just way too extreme, he's like, I got to put on the mantle for a minute.
Just for a minute. And Toph can maybe say, you have these powers for a reason. You should use them.
Come to me in the mic.
Oh, Toph can kind of say, well, you have these powers and you should use them. I think that could be a fun arc for him in this. Is if at the beginning he's like, no, I'm just a lawyer.
Yeah.
But let me help you handle, the subway system under New York City. Let me help you handle controlling your powers like I did. And then Toph can be like, you're more than a lawyer. You're a fighter.
Yeah.
Be a fighter. Don't be so fucking whine. Oh, sorry, Grandma. This podcast, my grandma's going to listen to it, and then if I curse, it's like so that's why I say that. Anyways, so she can say, you're a fighter. Stop being so whiny, because he's so whiny about, I like fighting. Does this make me a bad Catholic? It's like, just because you're Catholic doesn't mean you have to be guilty, Matt.
Well, actually, Toph would say, what's a Catholic?
Well, that's also true.
Is that a waterbender or something?
Oh,
is that the Water Nation?
These jokes are going to be great.
Yes. Oh, no, that would be great fun. It's just, so what's a Catholic do? It's like they pray and they do this and that. And
so they're an airbender.
Yeah. Basically, like, well, airbenders are more like, Matt
monks.
Would have no idea what she's talking about.
Right. Unless is Matt a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Okay, so if we're going to get into the whole everyone knows about the show, but there's actually an alternate universe where this exists, and they acknowledge it, we could do that. It just opens up a bit of a can of worms.
What kind of worms? Like good fishing worms, or like trolley worms, or like gross dirt worms?
I would say large, meaty worms that are very difficult to put in your hand and keep a hold of.
Oh, that's why they say that. I never thought about that.
I don't know why they call it can of worms.
Because if you open a can of worms, they all get out, and then you have an empty can of worms.
I guess so.
And it's hard to put them back together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying that it would be, if we're playing around with, it's like if Harry Potter were real, which it is.
Which it is.
And then we find out definitively, without a shadow of a doubt, that it's real. And then we start going into it's so. For example, if Toph shows up at the convention, like, oh, that's an amazing cosplay of Toph. You're perfect. How did you get your eyes to look like that? And then she starts earthbending, and they're like, oh my God, you're literally Toph. You actually are Toph. How do people react?
Well, no one's going to believe it. People don't want to believe things that don't
earthbends.
exist. Even if you see someone earthbending, they're going to say she just threw rocks at this guy.
Unless she literally throws. I mean, okay, if we play it in a way that she.
Well, maybe she can't earthbend when she first gets through because she's in a completely new environment.
Or the transportation messed with her powers or something.
No, I think that's lame because then it's well, now she's not Toph. She's just a blind girl. Well,
I mean, they can come back. She can be weak to start.
That's just used a lot. Which
is
fine,
used a lot
because it works.
It's much more effective when it's psychological.
I would love her to get through and be like, oh my God, what's happening? Let me earthbend. But she is literally surrounded by concrete.
She can't bend concrete?
She probably could, but concrete isn't just like...
We'd have to establish rules as to what concrete does, because it's like a combination of rock and chemicals and water.
Well, there's not a lot of chemicals in there. I mean, it's mostly just rocks.
Yeah, but
it's like lots of different types of rocks.
Yeah. So she could control it. In fact, she might even be able to control it in a very unique way.
Right.
Because it's sand. It's like hard sand with extra water that's hardened.
Which is basically what a rock is.
Yeah, so if she I don't know, she could mess with it in ways that she doesn't understand.
Right.
Maybe like when she starts messing with concrete, she starts earthbending and it's coming out in ways that she's like, this doesn't make any sense. Not working.
Because I feel like, okay, here's my problem. I have to know rocks more as well. Because I feel like when you earthbend a rock, you're kind of connecting into this like one type of rock. But that's not true. Rocks are made up of a bunch of different smaller pieces of sand that have formed together over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she could earthbend probably no problem, because concrete is basically just a bunch of different types of rocks that have been brought together over time and stuck together.
Okay.
So the thing that might throw her off is the rebar that runs through all concrete to give it structure.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a bunch of metal in there, which she does know how to metal bend for sure, but it will be different.
It's just like it could start out where it's just kind of total chaos, and then she's starting to learn, and as she's learning, she's like, there's like this weird metal bars inside of this rock. I've never seen anything like it. It's like, oh, that's rebar. What's rebar? It doesn't matter.
We might run into something where we have to, that's another thing we're going to have to watch out for, is explaining literally everything to her.
We have to make sure it's okay to explain.
Yes,
but
maybe not. We need to pick up a couple things we want to explain.
Yeah.
We can mine for character and we can mine for fun.
Yeah.
But we can't be explaining like what's Catholicism. It's like waterbenders. Like,
no,
what's
we should explain Catholicism.
But, like,
it's just it has to be brief.
Yes,
it has to be where she just doesn't get it, and he's like, never mind.
We have to make a couple choices of like what specifically we want to explain.
Yeah, well, it has to fit the theme of the story,
right?
Which we haven't really figured out yet.
I think the thing that Toph should have to deal with is the subway systems and blocking out stimulus. That's going to be something she hasn't had to deal with yet.
Okay, that's a physical thing.
Yes.
It's not emotional.
Well, when she gets through, she's not going to really be able to connect to her earthbending, because she feels everything around her. Now, she did a lot. Like, when she was fighting in the arena, she could probably feel everybody in the arena. She could probably feel,
But this is different. It's new.
Even in war, I'm sure she had to deal with a lot of overstimulus being on the airship.
But she understood what she was hearing and feeling.
But this is a city
This is different.
Yes. 3, 4, 5 times more people than she's ever had to hear at the same time.
Right, and the buildings are entirely different.
So that for me would freak me out. And
sure.
Once she starts to earthbend something underneath her, the stuff behind her starts to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
Because if she moves a piece of concrete, the whole building will start to collapse.
Ugh.
That could probably freak her out.
Yeah.
And be like, "Oh my God, what is happening?"
Right. And then she could choose not to earthbend. She's like, I cannot do anything until I understand what the heck is going on.
Because maybe she earthbends to defend herself against like
some jerks.
Some guys who are like, hey, where are your parents? And someone grabs her, and she goes to earthbend, and she picks up a piece of concrete, but it like undoes the structure of the building a little bit, and something falls from the ceiling and almost hits somebody.
Right.
And she realizes those things are connected.
Yeah.
Then she's like, oh, what? Who? And then they take her to the security guards, and they're like, maybe she hurts this guy.
Okay.
She has to. We have to. Do you like the hurt this guy thing? Who's like, I want to.
I don't want to badly injure anybody, especially innocents. It's more like they get scared. So a piece of concrete could fall on this dude's foot, and his foot is broken. That's enough for me.
Like she has it maybe in her hand when she calls it up, and then it like she gets
like she earthbends, and then like the structure falls, and like.
But how would he know that she did it?
Does that matter?
Kind of, because if he's going to sue her and like want her to go to juvie or whatever.
Well, I mean, like the type of disruption she causes, everyone's going to be like, it was her, and the police be like, please come with us.
But the more scared she gets, the more she's going to keep bending.
It's true, because that's her only defense.
So the question is, how do they get her out of there? Let's get back to broad terms.
They could tase her, although she's a child. That would be kind of weird.
Only if a cop freaks out. If a cop freaks out enough, yes, they would tase her.
I mean, if she's
this isn't one of those situations where like, child, you need to calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. To like, child, you're moving rocks. I'm like panicking. Tase.
Well, they could think that it's also an earthquake.
They could, except if she's going to do something very specific, like raise a certain rock, and they're like, how the heck are you doing this? And she's freaking out. And they kind of like put 2 and 2 together. Like, this girl, I don't know how, because they deal with mutants.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
They're just like, okay, this is a mutant. We got to put her down.
Yeah.
Taser.
Right. Word. That would get her unconscious, and then they would call Matt, because someone on the force would be like, hey, this blind girl is doing crazy things, Matt. And they're about to take her to be like worked on. He could get a phone call from Jessica Jones. because she's been working in the whole world of like people experimenting on
Sure.
mutants.
So she wants to make sure that, like, hey, there's this kid in custody who did weird things, and I'm hearing rumors through the grapevine that people that we don't want to be talking to her are about to head to her.
And we can use
Get
that
her,
to
Matt.
establish Matt saying, listen, I'm out of the game. And she's like, I don't need Daredevil. I want Matt Murdock to go help this girl, you coward.
Right. Although Jessica did not know Matt at all until Defenders, so it has to be someone else. It could be Foggy. It can be the secretary. I forget her name.
Yeah, because they can be feeling all betrayed and stuff.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, Matt,
Yeah.
like, I know you can deal with this kind of stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that. Are we
Okay,
taking
cool.
notes? How are we going to remember to do
Oh,
this?
I'm remembering the basics.
Oh,
The details we'll get into.
you're so talented.
Well, it's just, when you go over it again and again and again, it becomes a habit, and then your brain synapses are just fire. It's like picking up a piece of food. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. Good job. Well done. He's eating
I just want to make
the
sure that
coffee.
we're recording this in some way.
in some way, in some shape or form. We're recording it with electricities.
Electricity. So yeah,
With
so Toph will come
Teslas.
through. Toph will come through.
So he gets Toph, and he takes her out of there, and he's like, okay, what do I do with this girl?
So Toph, okay, hold on, let me make sure I'm on the same page. Toph comes through. She does some earth bending, kind of freaks out the convention.
Yeah,
She gets tased.
yeah,
They are taking her into custody. Matt comes in as her lawyer after hearing from Foggy about this girl.
mm-hmm.
Because Foggy could have started working for Trinity's company. That was under the table.
Yeah, I was like, that sounded like it was behind me.
I don't know what her name is, but the lawyer because he works for the lawyer Trinity.
Yeah.
It's not her name, but that's her character
I
in the
know.
Matrix. And Trinity would know Jessica Jones, and Jessica Jones would be like, "Hey, someone needs to go represent this kid." She's like, "No."
Well, she wouldn't represent anybody.
I know that, but
Like, she doesn't care about that kind of stuff. No, it makes sense if Foggy hears about it, and just keep Trinity's company out of it.
all right, fine.
It's just Foggy hears about it and is like, hey, Matt, there's something going on
Then
with
why
a person
wouldn't
that's
Foggy
like you.
go and represent her himself?
Because it's not his gig. He wouldn't get anywhere near a mutant.
You think so?
No.
Okay.
He's like, no, I'm going to call the person who has a lot of experience
Especially
with
if
this.
he's trying to work in Trinity's company.
Right, he's trying to do his own thing. He doesn't want to get involved.
Right.
He's just like,
He still wants to
feels
help
bad
people.
for this little 12-year-old kid who's blind but also has powers, and he's like, well, I'd like to help her, but she has powers. I don't. And I'm working for a legitimate, air quotes, company, and I don't want to screw that up. So I know the guy, just the guy who can handle it. Matt, go handle it.
Matt, I hate you right now, but
Right.
go handle it.
Exactly. So,
Oh, Foggy.
okay, so that's basically our inciting incident.
Yay.
We've figured out our inciting incident. And the next bit we have to figure out if we're following the 3-act structure alongside of this, which let's go ahead and look back at our John Truby 7-step structure.
John Truby, 7-step structure.
We need to better establish the weakness and need. So I think that the weakness that Matt has is he's too insecure about him being Daredevil.
Agreed. He's afraid that being Daredevil is morally wrong.
Right. And throughout the story, helping Toph helps him kind of start to come to terms. He can't completely, if we're going to follow canon of the Marvel Netflix series.
But come to terms with that being Daredevil sometimes is not morally wrong.
Right. Sometimes it's necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is actually right in line with the series, because he picks up in season 2 and he's like, yeah, being Daredevil sometimes is necessary.
Season 2, he was fine. He's fine being there. End of season 2 is when he was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, but the Defenders okay,
is
cool.
when he's
So
just
this is
like,
the
okay,
end,
maybe I should.
Right, got it.
Cool. So it can give him the necessary motivation for him to be open-minded about becoming Daredevil again when he does in Defenders.
Right. Oh, yay.
Okay. So that works.
And then Toph's weakness.
Now, we need to figure out, because we're still in Toph's... Okay, yeah, let's talk about Toph's weaknesses. I was going to say, let's go back to Gozar.
Yeah, I know we need to get Gozer.
Figure out what happened there.
What happened there?
My honest opinion is that this jerk who opened up new dimensions basically opened up a portal to all dimensions for a brief period of time.
And Gozer was like,
and
oh, great.
The two things that came through, one by accident, Toph, and the other on purpose, Gozer.
Right.
And I think Gozer would immediately possess the person that got him out of there and take the form of a person and stay low.
Right, because she will need a shell before she gets her powers.
She's going to need a shell, and she's going to need to stay low because, like, the Ghostbusters, like, got rid of her, and she's just like, I don't want them to even know I'm here. And then over time, she learns, I'm not even in that universe. I'm somewhere else.
Right.
So she starts...
We need to nuke her powers because she needs to be working towards getting full power at the end.
Right. Well, she didn't have full power in Ghostbusters. She was working on it through getting through the portal. So she wasn't 100% through. And it's kind of speculated that if she did get all the way through, then even what the Ghostbusters did wouldn't have been enough.
Right.
The idea is that
okay.
part of her essence is taking over this dude, and he just starts walking around, whoever it is, figuring things out.
Well, okay.
And then Gozer needs a goal.
Well, here we go. Right. So let's say if I'm Gozer, I'm feeding this occultist in this one in the A universe, not sure which one. I'm feeding him power. Enough power that I can flash through and get into his universe through a portal that's really small. Because remember in Ghostbusters, she needed the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper to get through, right? So she essentially is going to be slipping a piece of her essence through the keyhole of that gate.
Yeah.
Right? Now, she has to get the full gate open for her full essence to come through.
How would she do that?
Well, she needs the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster. And she needs enough negative energy.
How would she get those two?
How would you get those two? She needs enough negative energy to then send out minions to go collect the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster. That's what she did in Ghostbusters.
And where are they?
They're basically the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster are these two beasts that can open the way for Gozer.
But they're not in this universe. So
they're not in this universe. Well, they technically weren't in the Ghostbusters universe either. She brought them into their universe.
How did she do that?
They're ghosts, so to speak.
But she kind of was opening a portal already, wasn't she?
Yes, but she can communicate with the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster, making their goal.
Oh, she just takes the book that the person brought her back in the first place.
The book?
Yeah, let's just say you said that this person was using a ritual
magic.
Ritual magic. Well, ritual magic comes from sayings in a book.
That's true.
So what if she grabbed a book?
Okay.
Grab that book.
Grab the book so she can. So maybe the Ghostbusters, by sending her back through that portal, and destroying her entity dogs. Mm-hmm. The entity dogs maybe aren't allowed to come back for like another 100 years.
Okay.
And she doesn't want to wait that long.
Okay.
So there's this book out there in another universe that helps.
Oh, she's reading the book. She she's reading all these rituals in the book, and she's just like, oh, this is interesting. I can do new things with this book, with this power that's in this book.
Well, she can already bend reality.
She can, but does she have the ability to open up a portal to get her minions back?
No, well, she needs to get her full power back.
So what I'm saying is, how does she get those minions? Do we even need the minions? That's more characters.
No, we don't need minions.
So, okay, so here's what I was thinking. I have no idea how this can play about, but she needs power, right?
Yes.
In order to get that power, she needs power in order to open up the portal from where the rest of her is to get to full strength.
Yes.
What's like the building with the most power in New York right now?
What is it?
Stark Tower.
Oh no!
What happened after the end of Avengers 2 up to Avengers 3 and in Spider-Man: Homecoming?
Stark Tower was destroyed and rebuilt.
No, he changed house. He shut down Stark Tower, sold it, and moved Avengers headquarters out of state.
Oh, maybe this is the reason why he does that.
Exactly.
But then we have to get the whole Avengers involved.
No, we don't.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens that the Avengers should have been involved in, then they just don't show up.
But someone breaks into Stark's house.
No, if it happens fast enough and Stark's not there, and they manage to, and not only does the situation spiral out of control, but gets solved fast enough, then nobody needs to get involved.
And that could also be a crutch for Matt. This is the Avengers Tower. This is their home. They can take care of this. They have a god on their team.
Right. It's like, why am I even involved?
Right. And Toph's like, there's no time.
Right.
This could end everything, you fool.
Yeah. So basically, Stark Tower is taken advantage of by Gozer. The Daredevil and Toph stop her and conceal her back to wherever she came from, And then basically the end of the story is they hear in the news that Tony Stark decided to sell Stark Tower.
Because it was haunted.
He was haunted.
Because what she does in
he makes a joke about it like he was haunted.
Yeah, what she does in Ghostbusters is she uses the negative energy of the ghosts to create a portal. That's how the gatekeeper and the keymaster come through, and that's how the gate gets opened, right?
Well, if she needs an alternate, well, we could always say that she's like, that's not going to work this time because I have no ghosts. So
then
I need
she
something
needs
new.
a big alternate power source,
right?
Like, I don't know, something in Stark Tower that's a huge power source.
Yeah.
That gets made, that, Vision used.
Well, he powers it through his arc reactors, which is a totally new form of power. So what if she feels that power and is like, this is different. This kind of feels similar to the power that I'm used to. And then we take it from there. Right.
Okay, cool. So her goal then is she comes through, basically a shadow of Gozer comes through.
Yeah.
Bursts through this dimensional sort of rift.
Yeah.
That this occult guy and his convention is. I would love to have him at like a Billy Mays table, right? Yeah. He's like, if you read my books, you'll be able to do these crazy things. Like he's been using her ritual magic to like change like a penny into $1.
Right.
And then in one of his tricks, like the dollar turns into like $100 bill, and he's like, oh. I'm not quite sure how that happened. It's empty.
Okay.
And she comes through is in the crowd as like a ghost, or like maybe she possesses him or something in the middle of this presentation.
Okay.
I don't know. That could be funny.
Well, I think that's a really good start.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're about an hour and 7 minutes.
Oh, geez.
So I think we should take a break.
Yay.
And come back at the next episode.
All right. So we have the beginning.
We have our beginning.
In the beginning.
Yes. In the beginning, there was Toph. There was Daredevil. There was Gozer. There was Stark Tower.
And there was somebody doing a Billy Mays presentation in the cult convention.
Yes. I like it. Okay, cool.
Thanks for keeping up, guys, and watching and hopefully enjoying what you're seeing.
Yeah. If you're enjoying it, please press the subscribe button on the YouTube.
Hit the ding bell so you can hear when we post new videos, which is a lot.
Yep.
Because it's not just this, it's also the Great Wizarding War Talks Back. It's the Great Wizarding War itself. It's so many things that we're working on.
Yeah. And if you feel so inclined and want us to help improve the production value of everything we do.
Get me a new hat, perhaps.
Then check out our Patreon, patreon.com/broadstrokesproductions, and check out our perks. Hang out with us on Discord, hang out with us on our monthly Q&As, and directly influence our stories here, right here and now.
Absolutely. And if you're on Patreon, thanks for all the support, and stay tuned because we're going to be asking some more questions to you guys. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Dun, 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 dun. This is where the credits roll. Dun, 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 dun.
You need to. I think we need to hear the credits. Produced by Justin Zagri.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, they're literally moving down.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.